the story goes, the margins collapsed 1,000 basis points. I repeat, 1,000 basis points between 2011 and 2018. So if the starting margin was, let's say 25% in 2011, in 2018 they collapsed to 14-15%. Right? So उस period में 1,000 basis points का collapse हुआ margins में. What kind of management is this? Terrible, right? 1,000 basis point margin collapse हो गया over such a long period of time. We're talking about 7 years, not a sudden 1 quarter, 2 quarter thing कि कुछ accident हुआ. So that's a terrible management. However, in recent years, there has been a complete transformation. And what's the management's perception today? The perception is on North Pole now from South Pole. So 2011 से 18 के बीच में, that was a terrible management because the margins were collapsing, the business was going nowhere, and today is the best in class management. This is SRF, by the way. And remember the disclaimer and caveat, guys. So I'm just giving you enough examples so that you could learn to do your own fishing rather than coming on Twitter or WhatsApp and waiting for koi stock tip mil jaye. That's the sole purpose. Now, coming to your question, you have to go into the history of this business first. क्योंकि फ्यूचर तभी पता चलेगा जब पूरी हिस्ट्री पता हो कि क्या हुआ, क्यों हुआ, कैसे हुआ, क्या कब हुआ, right? So Newland today is transforming in that they are in flight. It's an ongoing journey. They're transforming from 100% commodity to, in my view, less than 20% commodity a few years out. And they are somewhere in the middle. So it was a pure 100% commodity business around about 2012-13 period. And today, the commodity as a percentage of overall business is reducing. And if you look at the gross margin, a commodity business, tell me one API company in India which is in commodity and showing 60% gross margin. एक भी बता दो. And that's an open challenge to everyone who is listening. You tell me one commodity API company in India. So it's not a commodity anymore, right? It used to be 100% commodity. That's point number one. Will the SRF history rhyme here? I don't know. Future is unpredictable. So I would wait and watch. But to answer your question directly, what I said is absolutely correct. And here is a global champion. I'm not just talking about India. In deuteration chemistry, Newland is a global champion. How many API players have taken a molecule through the entire commercial, through the entire clinical stage, all the way to commercial in deuteration chemistry? So this molecule was clinically developed by Newland scientists. And this is the reason Newland's employee expense as a percentage of sales is highest in the industry. It's about 20%. It tells you two things there. One, they are paying their scientists handsomely, they are hiring well, they are looking after those scientists well. And it's a large pool of, for given the market cap. I mean, Divi's has got 400 scientists, and look at their market cap. This company has 300 scientists. So given the small size of the business today, they are handsomely paying their scientists, and they are creating the business from scratch, so to speak. देखो, स्पेशलिटी बिजनेस बनाना, इनोवेटर सिंथेसिस बिजनेस बनाना बच्चों का खेल नहीं है. There are significant entry barriers in this business. And management perception is that they are not executing. And I'll give you a number. Their innovator synthesis business in 2014 was just 50 crores, 50. Last year they reported 280 crores from innovator synthesis. That's a CAGR of close to 23% over a long period of 8 years. If that is not execution, what is? I don't know. And they never said in any of the annual reports that they want to be fully backward integrated at the KSM level. So this all tantrum and noise about levricitam, this is all eyewash. Their ultimate objective is to possibly do zero commodity if they can. But because of the relationship with the innovators, because some of the innovators are also having, these generic molecules, they will continue to support, molecules like mirtazapine, labetalol, lebricitam, etc., etc. But there is absolutely no point in doing backward integration, because my math tells me that there will be a bloodbath at the KSM level. Indian chemical companies will start producing all sorts of KSMs over a period of time. There is drought in China. There are all sorts of problems in China. Sustain nahi kar payega. Chemical will explode. The KSM and the intermediate manufacturing in India. And the only reason or the benefit that you get out of backward integration is three. A, you get supply security. B, you get the price, right? Because you are making it in house. And C, you control the quality. If all these three factors are readily available in the market, then why you're blocking that capex at such a low asset turn? Because 4 5 years out, when KSM intermediates are freely available, you will struggle to get one time asset turn on that gross block that is giving you KSM. So अभी तो बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है सब, ये backward integrated है तो बहुत अच्छा, नहीं है तो गधा है management. Just imagine the scenario 4 5 years out. So I've given you enough data points around that, to sort of put your own multiple just to their synthesis business today. And my view is this 23% long term CAGR is all set to improve going forward, because three brand new molecules have just gone live. And if you read through the management commentary, I think the second half will be much better in their synthesis business. So it may be Q3, it may be Q4, it could be spread across Q3, Q4, I don't know. But I believe that this 23% CAGR on their innovator synthesis can improve to 25%, maybe all the way to 30% over the next few years, because a lot of molecules are just hitting commercial, and it takes 2 3 years to get these molecules well established in the markets before the revenues start coming up. So if your scientists have got the capability to progress a molecule from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 all the way to commercial, that's a very significant entry barrier, which competitors will find it very difficult to emulate or copy. And just to clarify, my channel checks and my research confirms, I repeat, confirms that Newland is partnering very closely with some of the A grade innovator synthesis companies in India, likes of Syngene and Piramal. So they are not competing with these. There's a more of a collaboration. It may be one molecule collaboration, it may be more than one molecule collaboration. So that's the reason I said, Newland's competitor is not Divi's or Laurus. See, why innovator would come to Divi's or Laurus? Simple. If they want a very large volume, these are volume champions. So molnupiravir and Paxlovid, they were large molecules, and they had the capacity to support those. But is it a sustainable business? And I tweeted this again yesterday, right? So don't extrapolate one time gain into a 10-year 15-year runway. But innovators have got no choice. If they want a large volume to be commercialized quickly, in a matter of few months, then they do the tech transfer. Tech transfer doesn't take more than 6 months in small molecules. You can do the tech transfer, and then the supplier can start, all guns blazing. The reactors would be running day and night, and you start throwing. That's exactly what these two guys are good at. But you give them a molecule and ask them to progress that through difficult deuteration chemistry, or peptide for that matter, or whatever, through the various clinical phases, and the picture may look very different. That's my view, but I definitely would like to invite counter view from experts. There are people who track this industry far better than I do.
All right, sir. Sir, one question, Aditya sir. Different bioenzymes require different temperature. Does India have that storage infra to scale it to world level?
एंजाइम्स में मेरी स्टडी थोड़ी वीक है, सो इट्स नॉट माय एरिया ऑफ कॉम्पिटेंस. But yeah, I don't know if Tushar or Sajal or some of the other speakers want to answer that. I don't know much about enzymes to comment on this. Yeah.
So just
Tushar
one
bhai.
point. Uh, while I will not comment specifically on enzymes as a space, I think the comment on infrastructure capabilities. Now, there are Indian companies that have developed their own clones, right? There are companies that are doing end-to-end work in biologics. Now, anybody who tracks biologics would know that the master bank that needs to be stored for for your own clone, we are talking of minus 180 degrees centigrade. This is like cryogenic storage. So that kind of facility, that kind of infrastructure is available. Obviously, it gets built to a certain cost. It's not something that will be easily available, not something that all the companies can do or will do. But I don't think, not in fact, not just pharma. I don't think any industry today, infrastructure or technology is a barrier to Indian companies. Now, even on innovation, just as an aside, on IP, right? The problem not necessarily would be whether Indian companies can actually do IP or not. Even in if you look at regulated markets, a lot of the research is actually done by universities, by academia, because the kind of patience that is needed, 8, 10, 12 years to work on not just one molecule, but a pipeline of, hundreds of molecules. That kind of patience, not businesses may not necessarily have it, and the investors of these businesses may not necessarily appreciate. So I don't think basically the infrastructure is a problem. And I've seen enough examples. In fact, I've personally visited facilities where this kind of infrastructure is available.
Right. Sajal sir, any input you have, or shall we move on?
No, I think we can move on. I mean, I have tweeted a lot about biocatalysis, enzymes, biotechnology. There is a full 5 hour webinar on that. So I mean, in
Right.
the interest of the time, I think we have to move on.
Right, sir. So, sir, one Gautam Gupta has asked CRDM of business comparison of Jubilant Pharmova versus Syngene.
Huh, see, it's all there in the numbers, na. They both started around the same time. One business is not even got 100 scientists. Look at their revenue versus another one with 500 scientists. I mean, Rakesh ji, he went on that call. I shared that recording very recently, and he kind of exposed, the sort of lack of execution. That's what I call lack of execution, because you have been in the same game around the same time. Your same player from India is significantly higher in sales than yourself. There's something around the execution on that perspective, for sure. But there are people who better track Farmova than I do, so maybe they can add some value.
Right, sir. So, Tushar sir, one question is like Syngene's manufacturing unit will cater to generic products as well. So, this is Divi's model, not Suvain's. How this will be going forward? Like they are, how, yeah, how this will be a J curve ride when it will also cater to generic molecules.
Uh, so I think the it is important to understand one thing here, that the strategies that these companies will follow, right? This is going to evolve over a period of time. They will, like Divi's has gone on record to say that they will not enter biologics. That is something that they have said today. 3 years, 5 years down the line, they may feel the need to do so. Syngene, manufacturing is an important element, but if you have a large facility and if you are getting a good generics product also, where your margins are protected, there's no reason why you can't pick up a CMO activity, for in a generic side. So I would not necessarily say that just because they will get into generics manufacturing, the business can't do well. In fact, you are essentially saying it will be a complement of maybe a very high margin development activity compared to in complement to that a very high revenue growth trajectory from the manufacturing side. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that they are getting it right. Having said that, there are people who track Syngene much better than I. they may be able to throw more light on this specific point. Aditya, Salil, you track both. In fact, Rahul also
Yeah, I mean, I
tracks
can,
them much
I
closely.
can chime in with my 2 cents here. So we gave two examples early on in the session. One was a chemical company generating 30-35% ROCE, and the granules. If you look at the actual gross block that is dedicated to metformin and paracetamol, which उससे ज़्यादा generic or commodity क्या होगा? वहाँ they are getting 35% ROCE. So again, it's all about the operating leverage. Same plant operator, everything is same. Every little helps. It adds to your operating leverage, and there is enough evidence and data to support that even in generic manufacturing, if you are doing it the right way, you can get a very high ROC and very high margins.
Right, sir. So, Aditya sir, one Siddhi Lingesh has asked why CFO over EBITDA is low in all API companies this year.
Yeah. No, that's a prudent question, but there is a very simple reason behind it. So all the KSM prices over the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months have been extremely volatile. And these API companies, KSM is key starting materials. For those who don't know, basically, a majority of India API companies' key starting materials come from China. And we know what China has been going through over the past 12 to 18 months. So the KSM, which come from China, because of various reasons, have been either in short supply or the prices have gone up multifold in certain cases. Some of it is also linked to crude prices because these are essentially solvents. Um, so what these API companies have basically done is they have stocked themselves with the KSMs in the fear that if there is a short supply, then they might not be able to make their end product. Also, if KSM prices further flare up, then they will be protected from that flare up of KSM prices, and they will have stock to manufacture, and they will not have to buy more expensive stock, from the Chinese suppliers. Having said that, it's very, very interesting. What is happening in the marketplace is laughable, but such is the world of business, right? So these API companies, most of them stocked up most on the KSM when the KSM prices were at the peak, and they have that inventory, high price inventory today in their books, right? And the spot KSM prices are actually 20, 30, 10, 15% lower than what they were, let's say 3 months back or 2 months back. So now they have the ability to buy the lower priced KSMs, but it's always FIFO inventory में ना ये लोग majority of these companies follow FIFO method, first in first out. तो अभी क्या हो रहा है ना, इनका 1Q23 का results and even the second quarter results to an extent will have some impact of this FIFO, where their earlier bought high price KSM will be consumed first. And then the lower price KSM will get consumed and get reflected in the P&L and cash flow. Uh, So yeah, I mean, that is why the CFO EBITDA has come down, because your working capital is meaningfully expanded, and that working capital is expanding because of the inventory being the big culprit there. But that's a good practice. That's a sound practice. I mean, it's just sheer out of luck that they ended up buying the most quantity at the peak levels. The prices might as well have doubled even from there. We don't know what could have happened. It's just, hindsight is 2020. Uh, so इसीलिए CFO EBITDA कम था, but it is therefore we never look at CFO EBITDA from 1 year standpoint. I never ever do that. I know a few people follow me, and thanks a lot for your trust and your admiration. But when I say some things, people take it in isolation here. So we look at CFO EBITDA from a 5 year, 10 year average standpoint. So API companies this year, as in FY22, CFO EBITDA might have been whatever 50, 60, 55% versus the average of 70, 80, 90%. My guess is over the next 2 years, it will be closer to 90%. So the 3 year average will still be 80, 85%, which is the long term average. So never ever look at these ratios on a single year standpoint basis.
Thank you, sir. So next question is for Rahul, sir. Like person is asking about your view on companies who are into medical instrument and medical products.
So very few listed companies as of now. A few of them were waiting in the IPO pipeline, uh, but a lot of regulatory impact was seen in terms of the some of the medical devices. For example, some of the hospitals took a hit. If I'm not wrong, it was HCG, I believe. Aditya might correct me because of the price cap on the knee replacement side. And I believe a big larger policy is in the anvil where a lot of these medical devices will come under the purview now. So after the stents and knee replacement, I believe some other few medical devices and surgeries could come under the cap. As of now, not many listed players there. So there's not much to speak on that.
Right, sir. So, Sajal sir, yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, I think knee replacement के कारण Shelby को impact आया था.
Right.
They are the arthritis specialists. HCG को impact आया था, but that was because of the cap at the oncology drugs margin within hospitals. जो
Right.
drug margins पे cap आया था, उसका impact था.
Right. Right.
And just to add, Shelby has now gone ahead and acquired another entity in US. They are now also dealing with the kneecap, the product itself. So they have moved on. So in addition to hospital, they've added this business segment in the last 1.5 years, and it's a very interesting potential from a 3 years, 5 years out perspective.
Right. So, Sajal sir, I saw one of your 2019 tweet. To be off patent, small molecule pool has few last remaining blockbusters. Few next generation NCs are restricted to low volumes. Hippo, CNS, neurology, and orphan molecules, as big pharma were never interested in them. So, do you see any change in this? Big pharmas are involved in it, or they are? I mean, the trend is keeping the same. I mean,
No, no. So this is great question, and thanks for pulling that old tweet out. Um, so that was correct back then because majority of the innovation was coming in the disruptive orphan rare diseases and type medicines, which are damn expensive, right? So the COVID, I think, has impacted many businesses negatively in the short run, but COVID is very positively impacting the entire healthcare ecosystem in a big way. And वो कहते हैं ना हाथ कंगन को आरसी क्या. If you look at the CNS space, none of the big players were interested in doing any sort of R&D, blockbuster research, NC and B research in CNS, because it used to be, not today, it used to be an old age disease, and the cash flow runway was very short. 60-70 साल के पेशेंट को हुआ 5-10 साल में हो गया जय जय सीताराम. So there was absolutely not enough of runway for the big guys like the Pfizers of the world to get interested in the CNS space. And that's why very few new molecules. अभी भी लेवरिसिटैम चल रहा है, अभी भी ये सब चल रहा है, गाबापेंटिन और बहुत सारे पुराने मॉलिक्यूल्स, राइट. सब चलते आ रहे हैं, नया इनोवेशन हुआ नहीं था. So what COVID did was a lot of respiratory and CNS related issues have started erupting. And if you um, go through my Alpha series 25 presentation, the one that I did on 22nd of May, towards the second half of the section, there is a detailed slide on the CNS landscape. And there I covered that Pfizer recently acquired a CNS specialist, a company called Biohaven, and they paid top dollars for that acquisition. And the reason there is a sudden change of heart, and the think tank of the Pfizer's scientific advisory board is simple. The 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 cases of Parkinson's is now getting visible in people as young as in their 20s. And the reason, as I explained in my Alpha series, is simple. The way the bodies were designed, जो ऊपर वाले ने बॉडी बना के दी थी वो इसलिए दी थी कि 8 hours ऑफ मेहनत मशक्कत, हार्ड वर्क 8 hours, 8 hours of family recreation time, friends, family, going out with friends and family, and watching television, that type of thing, and good 7-8 hours of sleep. That's how our brains were manufactured when we were born. What we are doing today, our lifestyle is such that we are always online, we are always on mobile, या तो ट्विटर पे या अपना काम कर रहे हो, whether it's whatever that work is, and we are sweating this asset, which is the most important asset in our entire body, which is our brains, and we are working 15-16 hours flat out, and we are ignoring our health, and this will have very serious repercussions. This already is kind of visible in things like the Alzheimer's cases are now getting observed in people like in their 40s and 50s. So imagine the cash flow imagine the shift in the cash flow. What used to be a 10-year cash flow business is now 40-year cash flow business, arguably. And that's the reason Pfizer is paying top dollars, because now they are interested in this space. And a lot of research. So I asked this question with one of my investee company about around the COVID time, and they confirmed that yes, there is intensity in sort of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 level. And there is data, if you observe, any good academic university, either here in the UK or in the US, there is serious evidence based research which is kind of suggesting that CNS as a space will explode going forward, and the requirement for the capacities as well as the capabilities will be dramatically different in the CNS as well as respiratory space going forward than they have been historically. And I'm sure Aditya or maybe Rahul would definitely have a better perspective.
Aditya sir?
Yes, Sajal bhai. Like recently, I shared a couple of articles on which were published in terms of the CNS disease and how the increase in the CNS disease has been post COVID, and of course, the study timelines have just been 1 year, 2 year, but 5 years out, definitely this will be a big area.
I concur. Nothing else to add.
Right, sir. Gurmeet sir,
Hi, good evening.
Gurmeet sir, sat sri akal, pranam, paye lage.
Sat Shri Akal, sir. Sat Shri Akal, sir. Copy to all.
Thanks for dropping by. Much
No, sir.
appreciated.
I had to. I just got a little delayed with a client. The meeting got stretched out. I was just joined much earlier.
Sure. So sir, मेरा तो आपसे वही एक क्वेश्चन था जो मैंने आपको भेजा. If you are willing to share your thought process, what was going through your mind, and I'm assuming that you were invested in that business back then. So if
Yes.
you can explain the whole sort of your own personal journey, because hindsight में तो हम सब चैंपियन है कि हाँ ये हो गया, but
Sure.
live उसको देखना, and I know another guy, Tushar would concur, they experienced everything live. So I just want you to share, because ये वाला incident ना किसी और कंपनी के संग भी हो सकता है. So that experience might help us, psychologically.
Correct. So I'll tell you sir, थोड़ा सा इसका background देता हूँ. I'll not take much time. So मैं 7 years of my career I was with Reliance Mutual Fund, which is now Nippon. और आपने भी ट्वीट किया था कि कैसे मधु केला को डिवीज में इन्वेस्ट करना था और मुरली डिवी अपॉइंटमेंट नहीं दे रहे थे, तो ही एक्चुअली बुक्ड अ फ्लाइट ticket. He figured out when he's traveling, booked a ticket next to him, and in the course of the journey convinced him to pick up a sizable stake in divis. That story is popular. तो वो सुन के बहुत इंटरेस्ट आया था. आपने शायद उसके बारे में ट्वीट भी किया है. एंड बट मुझे ये बहुत इंटिमिडेटिंग लगता था पूरा सेक्टर, क्योंकि आई वाज फ्रॉम अ कॉमर्स बैकग्राउंड, नॉन टेक्निकल, नॉन केमिकल बैकग्राउंड. तो निपॉन का एक फार्मा फंड था विच नॉट मेनी पीपल नो. उसका NAV 300 हो गया था 10 रुपीज़ का. इट वॉज 30x at the peak. अभी भी 275 टू 80 का उसका NAV है. एंड ये करीबन करीबन मैंने इसमें सिर्फ स्टार्ट किया क्योंकि मुझे इतने अच्छे से बिजनेस समझ में नहीं आता था, तो मुझे लगा कि चलो फार्मा को म्यूचुअल फंड रूट से खेलते हैं, बिकॉज ये मुझे हमेशा हेल्थ केयर एक्साइटिंग लगता था एज एन इन्वेस्टर. एंड दैट जर्नी बिकेम वेरी वेरी गुड. सो मैंने फिर धीरे धीरे सीखना शुरू किया. एक तो आई वॉज इन म्यूचुअल फंड, so I had access to Shailesh Rajban, who used to run the pharma fund. Then Madhu Kela, the stories around DVs. Then I became later on थोड़ा conviction बढ़ा तो मैंने DVs खुद लेना शुरू किया 2014-15 में. In a quantity goal format कि थोड़े थोड़े लेता हूँ. And then this 2017 ये US FDA ने import alert दिया कंपनी के. विशाखापट्टनम प्लांट था in AP, if my memory serves me right. और वो करीबन करीबन उस टाइम पे आई थिंक एकदम से आई थिंक 20% उस दिन गिरा था कि 18% गिरा था. एंड इट वाज वेरी वेरी अननर्विंग. तब तक मैं अपने काम कर मतलब आई वाजंट विद रिलायंस और सिटी बैंक दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. एंड 20% स्टॉक गिरा. और ये somebody like Divi is going through जिसकी स्टोरीज थी in terms of being a multi-bagger. I think what I did that time was, I contacted a lot of people who used to be pharma specialists, and I had till that point of time, studied it also. थोड़ा समझ में आने लग गया था कि जेनरिक APIs में क्या करता है, कस्टम सिंथेसिस में क्या करता है, मार्जिन प्रोफाइल क्या है. And North America used to account for 32% of the revenue for APIs and intermediates for DVs at that point of time. और उस टाइम पे उसका क्वार्टरली सेल 800-900 करोड़ होता था. Today that number is probably 3 times of that in 4-5 years. So मैं थोड़ा फाइनेंशियल्स का बंदा हूँ, तो इससे मुझे फाइनेंशियल्स ज़्यादा याद रहते हैं. And then I started looking at what APIs it make. और उसकी डिविस की एक वेबसाइट का एक अच्छा बात है कि अगर आप जाएंगे तो उसमें एक उनका लिस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स ऑप्शन है, जिसमें आप जाएंगे ना तो वो बताएंगे कि कौन से फॉर अ सिंपल इन्वेस्टर की कौन से कमर्शियल प्रोडक्ट्स हैं और कौन से प्रोडक्ट्स अंडर डेवलपमेंट हैं. तो आप उसको देखोगे तो उसमें आपको उनके जो जहाँ पे वो स्ट्रॉन्ग है, जैसे नेप्रोक्सिन है जो एंटी इन्फ्लेमेटरी और एनाल्जेसिक है, वो भी मेंशन्ड है. मोलनुपिराविर मेंशन्ड है और उसमें लिखा हुआ है कि शैल ओनली बी ऑफर टू लाइसेंस होल्डर्स ऑफ MPP एक्सेट्रा. तो थोड़ा बहुत स्टडी किया और देखा कि बिजनेस परफॉर्मेंस US FDA alert is not something which will it was unnerving, but seeing its journey, I thought that the best of the companies go through it. And look at today. I mean, from that price of 650, despite today's correction, it is still 6 times at 35-3600. तो unnerving था. बट हाँ, एक महीने 2-3 महीने उसको लिया नहीं था उस टाइम पे, बिकॉज आई वांटेड मोर क्लैरिटी टू कम इन. But I was lucky that my conviction paved off. And and my request to everybody else is that since I've been an SIP investor in a pharma portfolio. If it becomes too overwhelming, no, there are very good experts. There is Aditya here, there is Rahul here, and I can see more people. It's sometimes good to take a portfolio approach and give it to a professional. Equip yourself, become better, and then again come back and pick up individual scripts. Also, a lot of time we make this debate about this versus that. कि stock लूं कि portfolio करूं. This is not about this versus that. This is about how you fit in. So आज today I run a PMS, I manage a stock portfolio, I have a direct equity investor. But मैं आज भी SIPs करता हूँ index fund में और कुछ अच्छे funds में, क्योंकि it helps you learn. And our journey is not just to earn, but also to learn along the process. And that is what most people forget, because the day you stop learning is where even your returns will also start decaying. And your way may not be the best way, right? Because there are 100 ways to to reach the journey. So once you get access to experts, and now you are in a digital platform, you have, let's say in this forum, all pharma experts, keep learning. And some things do it yourself, some things I think you should give it to experts. Figure out the right combination. I think journey would be good. Thank you, sir.
So, Arpan Mehta has asked how to play companies like Praj with so many optionalities from 2G, CBG, liquid discharge, and promising renewable resources. So, how much one should allocate in such companies, and how long one should hold it? What's the framework for investing in such companies?
यार वो भाव डबल हो गया बायो वेबिनार के बाद, आपने बेचा नहीं अब तक, कमाल है मतलब। चलो खैर, एनीवे विद दैट caveat and disclaimer, I mean, see, Praj, Neeraj asked a very good question on the Alpha Series 25 and towards the back end of that Q&A, and I explained, two clear risks that I see that in Praj. I mean, one is, this, it's all government backed story, this all ethanol thing, right? So that is the enabler, and that is also the risk. If there is any sort of withdrawal of that government support, then the whole ethanol story, especially in India, could crumble pretty quickly. So that's always that one risk. And the secondly, I mean, you also need the flex engine to support. I mean, ethanol blend करके engine की गाड़ी बैठा दोगे, गाड़ी का engine तो कौन खरीदेगा? So you need, the engines to support 20% blending, and maybe you should design those engines to support even more, because banda bar bar gaadi thode na kharidega. It's a big investment for 10 years, at the very least. So flex engines, I think, is an absolute must, to get anywhere close to that 20% blending, because if that's the way the trend is progressing, then I want my engine to be, fully flexible. I can run it on 100% ethanol or 100% petrol or whatever. So those are the two, big risks in Praj. But again, as I explained in that biotech webinar, that Praj is kind of today is, heavily, the cash flow wise is heavily dependent on that, the ethanol thing. But this is a giant in the industrial biotechnology. But management would have to execute. थाली में परोस के तो कोई देगा नहीं कि अपॉर्चुनिटी है, इंडस्ट्री 5 आ गया है, अब आप क्योंकि प्राज हो तो यू डिजर्व टू बिकम अ लार्ज कैप, ऐसा नहीं होगा. दे वुड हैव टू execute in other areas, things like, high purity business, even their critical equipment. So it's a conglomerate. They have got multiple divisions. So there is bioenergy, which is one, but let's keep that aside. In the high purity, then there is critical process equipment, and so on and so forth. So renewable chemicals is a very large opportunity, and ethanol is a building block for many downstream products. And it's all about the technology. The yield and the purity of the end product is a function of technology, and that's what Praj claims to be doing in their Matrix lab. तो अगर बाकी नॉन एथेनॉल साइड ऑफ बिजनेस में ट्रैक्शन नहीं दिखा, सो दैट इज अ रेड फ्लैग. तो वो मतलब, जो भी आप लोग फंड में होल्ड कर रहे हो, लार्ज पोजीशन है, थोड़ा मैनेजमेंट को जाके अकेले में कोने में हड़काओ कि भाई क्यों नहीं, right? So that's one. And then coming back to the bioenergy, other than ethanol, I mean, CNG is a big, I mean, phase 2G technology, right? It is still in the fledgling state. A lot of pilot plants are being set up. अभी एक state owned oil company ने भी 2G launch किया है. So there will be lot of learning coming out of that, and there are not many companies in India who have that technology to go into. And मेरे हिसाब से जो एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी का लैंडस्केप है गोइंग फॉरवर्ड, नो सिंगल टेक्नोलॉजी विल बी अ विनर. सी, इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल भी आएगा तो उसकी पावर जनरेशन, इज इट रियली ग्रीन? वो क्या ग्रीन एनर्जी है, सोलर है, विंड है, हाइड्रो है, जो भी है, इज इट रियली ग्रीन? तो एक वो क्वेश्चन मार्क हमेशा रहेगा मेरे दिमाग में कि इफ यू आर जस्ट गोइंग full steam ahead on the EV, are you just transferring that pollution from cities to rural area? कि भाई कोल बेस्ड पावर प्लांट जो है वो रूरल इंडिया में चल रहा है, ईवी चल रही है शहर में, पोल्यूशन हो रहा है गांव में. I mean, I recently shared one of the pictures on my Twitter. I mean, that's how the world is looking like from a pollution perspective. And India and China are top two, and US is a close third. Maybe US is number two and India is close third today. And Africa and parts of Europe and Russia are relatively clean. So, I mean, सारे ही मरोगे फिर तो. If biotechnology is not embraced, तो कोई बचेगा नहीं. फिर क्या करोगे पोर्टफोलियो का? So, opportunity runway is large, but what I need to see is the execution, which to my mind today is not as visible in non-ethanol areas in Praj, and maybe because it's the nature of the business. अगर इतना easy होता तो आज 10 Praj होते ना इंडिया में, एक ही क्यों है? Maybe some other views. I mean, a lot of people are tracking Praj, I know.
One point I think, sir, just if I can just pitch in here, with your permission, is that you rightly pointed out that it's obviously a play on bioenergy, and अभी उसका जो order book भी आप देखोगे, 66% is the traction is from grain based distillery, which is basically your starch related feedstock, right? And then compressed biogas है, purity business है. So India में the model could be very different than the rest of the world, and so I have a lot of clients who are in energy business, so they recommend having a portfolio approach, where you play hydrogen, you play solar, you play EV charging, so play the energy mix rather than just being, because we don't know what will come. While we are only at 10% blending and government is committed to getting to E20, and there is near term visibility also, but it's good to play it through various, and there is a lot of money which is coming. See, the energy need is only going to go up. It is only the mix of the energy which will change. So there is some, this is one sector which is seeing the highest capex across, and the highest investments happening, people creating new subsidiaries, which is basically for the renewable business. हमने देखा कि Adani Power did very well. We saw Tata Power then getting investments in its renewable business. Suppose Chandra coming in Tata Sons. They have again a very clear target from FY23 to FY27. $1 ट्रिलियन का कैपेक्स बोला है उन्होंने, अगले 4 साल में सिर्फ ग्रीन बिजनेस पे होगा. You have seen Reliance, so they are trying to do to energy what they did to Jio. So Monday there is an AGM. Last AGM they announced 75,000 crores capex in the energy business across and 4 gigafactories. They've acquired 11 companies there. Then you have bit of hydrogen play where some other players are getting strong. So I think good to play the energy mix, in my view, rather than just being concentrated on one. Despite having you may increase the weightage here and there in terms of basis of conviction and probably domain of expertise, but good to play the energy mix rather than just bet on one stock.
Right, sir. Sir, one question from Arpan is like how to identify headwinds in CDMO APIs. How should we allocate more in bad times if we get US FDA? US FDA being the biggest risk, how long does it take for them to re-inspect if there is an infraction? For example, Indoco, if they get one again, would you sell or accumulate more? So US FDA inspection can delay revenues, but does that create a window to acquire more?
See, good question. Couple of points here. In my view, cost of compliance for any company will always, I repeat, will always be lower than the cost of remediation. So you better invest in compliance. क्योंकि थप्पड़ पड़ा तो मशीन बंद हो जाएगी. Work hard. राइट सब डिवीज का एग्जांपल लेते हैं क्योंकि वो हाइंडसाइड है, सबको पता है कि 1 साल में गाड़ी चढ़ निकली. इज दैट द डिफॉल्ट? आई मीन आरती ड्रग्स को 2015 में यूएस एफडीए मिला था, आज तक क्लियर नहीं हुआ. इपका रतलाम या कहीं इनका एमपी में जो प्लांट है, कहाँ क्लियर हुआ? तो डिवीज इज नॉट द पोस्टर बॉय एज फार एज दिस इंसिडेंट इज कंसर्न. इट्स मोर ऑफ एन एक्सेप्शन. इंडोको को भी बड़ी मेहनत मशक्कत करनी पड़ी, पसीने छूट गए थे, तब जाके बाहर निकले. एंड स्पेशली दिस इज ट्रू फॉर स्टेराइल इंजेक्टेबल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एंड इवन मोर फॉर द बायोसिमिलर बायोलॉजिक्स. ओरल सॉलिड बनाना आता है इंडियंस को, वहां द रिस्क इज रिलेटिवली लो. So again, you have to follow the framework and understand what this business is all about. And again, as if you remember, Tushar bhai suggested that अगर तुम्हारा रोज ही एग्जाम हो रहा है, you are always in preparation mode. So if you are custom synthesis player, तुमको कोई ना कोई कस्टमर जो है वो रोज ऑडिट कर रहा है. And this is the definition of specialty. जब डिवीज स्पेशलिटी क्यों था? ये डिवीज का जब रिएक्टर बंद हुआ तो बहुतों की सांसें बंद हो गई. अगर कमोडिटी होती तो स्विच कर लेते कि चलो डिवीज नहीं जो है हम किसी और से ले लेते हैं. They couldn't do that because डिवीज is the real specialty chemicals. कि सारे आ गए हवाई जहाज पकड़ के, कुर्सी डाल के वहीं बैठ गए कि भाई क्यों हो गया, क्या हो गया. And this is the reason there is frequent customer audits in these companies, whether it's Newland or anyone. So they are always in a state of readiness, alert रहते हैं. Whereas if you are competing, then you are on your own. तुम्हारी API है, तुम्हारा अंडा, तुम जानो तुम्हारा काम. There is no audit. And they cut corners in compliance, and that's why I always say the cost of compliance is way lower than the cost of remediation. अभी हो रहा है ना वो खाड़ का remediation, और बाकी सन हलोल, पंजाब वाला plant, Lupin, Aurobindo. I mean, there you name it, and they're all there. So you have to be very careful.
Right, sir. Sir, we take one question from Sahir, if you allow, and then the questions and comments which we find are answerable, we'll be taking rapid fire for those questions. Rest we have covered.
Sure.
Yeah, Sahir.
Hi, Sajal thank you, Prince. So my question was about fermentation-based APIs. So why are they gaining traction? And could you give a bit list of like advantages of fermentation-based APIs as well as disadvantages, for example, power costs, etc. And with respect to Krebs Bio, could you speak about their product basket a little bit, if possible?
No, sorry, a very, very relevant question. So before I answer this directly, let me tell you a short story. So if I'm really thirsty, and if I'm out and about in a marketplace, और मैं घर से पानी की बोतल जो 20 रुपए वाली है वो मैं ले जाना भूल गया, and I'm really desperate for पोर्टेबल वाटर, और वो मुझे 30 रुपए की बोतल वहां मिलेगी, मैं लूंगा कि नहीं लूंगा? राइट? 40 की भी मिलेगी तो मैं लूंगा if I am desperate. So if you need supply security, you need it. वहां आप भाव नहीं देखोगे, तुम्हारी सांस रुक जाएगी, तो तुम क्या करोगे सस्ता लेके? So that is one point. China today is 100%. It's a big risk. China की plant बंद हो सकता है, could be whatever reason, right? It's an erratic country. No credible innovator or generic player will take that. Cost पे बात ही नहीं होगी. 20% लोगे, 30% लोगे तो लोगे. That again, वही example. If you are desperate for something, you don't haggle on price. So that's one. Yes, it's a power hungry business. Fermentation, steam generation, वो सब में काफी सारा पावर कंज्यूम होता है. बट देयर आर, सी इफ यू सी सिंजीन का ये पावर कंपनीज ले रहे हैं ना, ग्रीन पावर में जा रहे हैं, रिन्यूएबल पावर में. क्यों जा रहे हैं? There are two reasons. A, they want that power security, and B, their customers, they want to be doing business with companies like Syngene who have that sort of ethical mindset कि planet को pollute नहीं करना, already बहुत polluted planet है. But the show must go on, the lights must be on in a as green a manner as possible. Industry 5.0 में बार बार बोल रहा हूँ, ये नॉन नेगोशिएबल है, इरिवर्सिबल प्रोसेस है. पसंद हो या नहीं हो, ये करना ही पड़ेगा. So that is one. So there will be some percentage of work that will initially shift, and India was always dominant. ये तो because of जो formulators हैं. अभी क्या होता है ना, 500 formulator हैं, they are jostling, कुछ branded हैं, कुछ unbranded हैं, and they are selling their own sort of same under API. The real component is the API in those 500 formulations. And how many players are making those APIs? That's where the buying power, you have to look at the entire supply chain. Which component has got more muscle power? If 5 players are making the API that is going into 5 different formulators, who has got the power to bargain? Is the API player. So, I mean, in the emerging landscape, fermentation as a space will pick up. Either या तो solar डालेंगे ये लोग, या wind करेंगे, they will manage whatever. And even the customers, as I said, वो water वाला example, 30 रुपए का भी लेंगे, 40 का भी लेंगे. If they need it, they need it. They may not buy 100% at that price, but they will definitely start buying it. And I don't want to be very specific on Crest, but if you look at my API webinar, right, last year का, उसमें मैंने कई सारे एग्जांपल्स इंक्लूडिंग क्रेब्स कवर किया है. Yesterday I tweeted something on advanced enzymes, right? So serratio peptidase, right? So Krebs has got that molecule. अगर ये स्केल अप कर ले गए तो इट कुड बी अ गेम चेंजर फॉर द बिजनेस. बट किसको पता होगा कि नहीं होगा? जब होगा तब ले लेंगे, जब दिखेगा नंबर्स में. उसके लिए यार 5% लेके वो लॉस मेकिंग बिजनेस जो हो सकता है अगले 50 साल टर्न अराउंड ना करे, दैट इज नॉट द राइट अप्रोच. द राइट अप्रोच इज टू ट्रैक दैट बिजनेस, एंड व्हेन यू सी, यू नो, ऑपरेटिंग